From Software's parent company, Kadokawa has confirmed Sony's intent to acquire the company. They want to acquire the company. So I actually think, and I was saying this to Cream before we started, personally, I think this affects anime way fucking more because Sony has wanted to have a monopoly on anime for a long time. Funimation, Crunchyroll, Animeplex, and we saw what went down with Yoko Taro the other day, which is just fucking madness. But now they want to get in on this one, which will give them From Software, which means potentially going forward, your Dark Souls, whatever, your Armored Cores could all potentially be exclusive. If they were to buy it, I don't think they would do it. I think it would be a Microsoft with Call of Duty situation where they're going, it just sells too fucking much to limit it to make it an exclusive. Elden Ring sold over 25 million copies. Erdtree fucking sold whatever fucking ridiculous number as well. And that's because it was multi-platform.
Before we go through it, do you want to bring up and show maybe people who are retarded like me and don't know everything that Kadokawa owns type of thing?
Sure.
Yeah, I knew they owned From Software, but they own a fair bit in other stuff, and it kind of gives people an idea. But this isn't really a ridiculous idea. Remember, Kadokawa has a deal with Sony for From Software anyways.
A good handful of the prominent animes, mangas,
Yep.
They Gundam, if I remember correctly. Yeah, that's all them.
Yep.
While Lethal is looking up the inventory on this kind of stuff, I want to get, before I read the article, I want to give my initial impressions that this is a bad thing for From Software. Cream is right. The From Software Souls and Armored Core games are too much of a cash cow, and Sony would still rake in the profits if it was sold on Microsoft and on Xbox and PC. But Bloodborne, how Sony handled Bloodborne when people are dying for a sequel or a remaster or a remake of some kind, and they're just sitting on it. That makes me worried for like the business decisions and strategies that From Software would have to abide under the direction of Sony.
As you can see, a lot.
Yeah. What are some of the IPs that they own? I know Spike Chunsoft. I've played a couple of their games. They're decent.
Japan Film Fund. Look how much is in here, man. They got this software. It's a lot. A lot. Like I said, I do think this actually affects anime quite a bit more, but it's still really fucking bad. So following reports that Sony was in talks to acquire From Software's parent company, Kadokawa has confirmed Sony has expressed interest in acquiring the company. That's the key word there. So that doesn't necessarily mean that it's sold or it will be sold, but there is interest in it from Sony. The full statement reads, there are some articles on the acquisition of Kadokawa by Sony Group Incorporated. However, the information is not announced by the company. The company has received an initial letter of intent to acquire the company shares, but no decision has been made at this time. So if there are any facts that should be announced in the future, we will make an announcement in a timely and appropriate manner. Presently, Kadokawa has a 70% stake in From Software, and Sony has around a 14% share. Rolling it up, Sony already has 2% stake in the Kadokawa Corporation, but other gaming titans like Tencent also own a piece of the company. It's unclear at what stage the talks are currently at, so if the desire for the acquisition is successful, it could be a while before any announcement is made. Now, this is something that we were supposed to talk about, I think on my Monday or Friday, but we just had too much to get through, and at the time it was just some fucking way out there rumor that it didn't make priority of everything else that was going on. But Dark Souls 3 Remaster in development, it is claimed. I think these two together, well, more so when you take Dark Souls 3 rumor, it adds credence to all this. But since they've come out and addressed it and say, yeah, they did actually express intention of doing that, interest in doing that, I think this is real now.
At least the interest, for sure. Like, just confirmed it right there. This is dangerous at this point for at least the entertainment when it comes to like anime and stuff. If they're going to try to corner a market
monopoly
when it comes to gamers on pretty much, well, yeah, they can't own everything, but they'll definitely have a strong corner when it comes to like distributing anime manga, since they'll have the rights if they buy them out. The one thing that worries me the most about this is like watching From Software become the developers who made Helldivers 2. I forget their Arrowhead Studios.
Arrowhead.
Yeah. Because we've seen them and other developers who work under Sony. Their balls are in a fucking sling. They get tied. They're completely enthralled to whatever Sony wants, and they don't care what the audience thinks, and the developers are kind of like their hands are tied and they got to take the punches from the audience.
I still maintain that I think this is way worse for anime.
I will say this.
You're right. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you on that for sure.
Just because Sony put in a letter of intent that they would like to buy the stock doesn't mean that they're going to. Now, I would assume that Kadokawa is probably, the company is probably discussing this, right? If anyone comes in with an offer, you're going to discuss it with them. You have to. As a company, it's your fiduciary duty. Doesn't mean they're going to accept, because Kadokawa is in a position where they can basically be like, yes, they are offering us a very big number, but as a company, we can realistically make higher profits being on our own. But there's also a chance that the stockholders get an offer and they vote and they're like, yeah, we want to sell because we're going to get a huge bang for our buck, and then Sony has it. And I don't see any Japanese regulators stepping in, because this is all Japan. There's no FTC to come in and be like, what the fuck are you doing?
At least as of right now, they very easily can just say no. It's just Sony has said we want to do it. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. Remember all the people that wanted to buy Nintendo over the years? Doesn't mean it's going to happen. Now, with that said, I could wake up tomorrow morning and see an announcement that fucking Sony has actually bought them. But as of right now, I'm skeptical, and I do think Elden Ring is actually part of that reason, with that game selling, like I said, over 25 million copies, being multi-platform. That's got to be something they take into consideration with that, where they'll be like, maybe it's just easier for us to just stay as we are.